Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Buck Brief. On this episode, first time, Ashton Mulholland is with us. She is the president of the Palm Beach Young Republicans and is involved in a whole bunch of other exciting projects and things she's going to tell us about, trying to save the country, trying to convince young women to see the light and the truth in America these days, and a whole bunch of things. So can I call you Ash, by the way, or do you go by
You can
Ashton?
call me Ash. Yes, you can
Ash.
call me Ash.
Very, very good. All right. So let's start with how do you think things are looking right now for Trump post conviction among the younger female vote? I know it's not great, but can it start to go in his direction?
I think it is. I think actually this trial has put him on track, full steam ahead for 2024 November. So I think there's a big contrast right now between the Gen Z and millennial female voter on the Democrat side and the Republican side. And we were talking about this earlier, but I think that young women are really struggling and have struggled in the past, I will say, to find a home and to really land in the GOP. And so I just think that any woman or any person really that has ever felt like they've been under attack for standing up for others, which women at our core, we are like, we have that motherly instinct in us, even if we deny it and think we're a feminist. But I think that women, we care about each other, and seeing Trump stand up for our country like this and be persecuted um, and standing in the way, it just riles people up. And I think that women now more than ever are ready to get behind Trump. I mean, I just saw some of the information come out from the Trump campaign that they had over 70,000 new first time small donors in the past few days. So that is massive. I want to say they've had over $200 million come in the past few days, which is record breaking. So not only are people getting behind Trump and ready to get on the Trump train um, ideologically and politically, but also financially and backing him with their dollar. I know I posted a link even on my social media the other day to donate to the Trump campaign, and I had a very large portion, probably 25% of my audience actually click the link to go donate. So I have a small audience, but I know I have a lot of women that follow me. So it's cool to see just how your impact can go that far.
When you come across, as I'm sure you do, I don't know how polite they are, but maybe just in social settings, you can pick this up. The objection that Gen Z women, particularly, have to Trump, is it specific to like certain influencers who hate Trump? I mean, are there a lot of young women who hate Trump because Taylor Swift is pro Biden, or do they cite things that Trump has done? Like what? Why is he so behind with that demographic? Like I know why single middle-aged women in the suburbs don't like Trump and in the cities don't like Trump. That I can speak to. But the 18 to 30-year-old women, why are they when you talk to them, if they're not pro Trump, what are their reasons?
Honestly, I don't even think it's Trump's fault. I think it's historically been the GOP's problem to find space for young women to fit in, to find space where young women can get on board and can agree with some of the issues that the GOP is pushing. I think traditionally the GOP has been campaigning on issues and ideas rather than people. I think Democrats do a much better job on campaigning for people and their messaging and how they communicate that, whether it's social media, whether it's in the classroom on college campuses. They're just more effective because they're direct and they speak to the human and the person that they're campaigning and fighting for. Whereas I just think the GOP has traditionally slacked in that. And I think that that's why Trump struggles. It's not even necessarily his fault. It's just that the GOP has laid such a framework that has been so hard for Trump to break out of. But I do think that because of this trial and because of all the things that he's done, the history, I mean, women saw the success that we had the past 4 years under Trump before Biden got in office. And I think that I just don't think that women are afraid now to get behind Trump and they see what he stands for. I also think that Trump's messaging on abortion has been very smart to appeal to young women. Not that I personally agree or that the GOP necessarily agrees, but I do think that Trump has been strategically successful in messaging for that as well.
How do you think the GOP can win more young women too? It's been, I mean, if the election were just men across the board, men of all ages, all races, the Republicans would win in a landslide. I mean, they would absolutely kick the Democrats' asses. It is, in fact, when you add women, we can thank a constitutional amendment for this, when you add women into the voting, that it becomes competitive and even a situation where Democrats can win at a national level, but particularly among young women. I mean, I could pull up some of the numbers, but everyone knows among young women, Democrats do very well. How can the GOP, is it possible? I mean, is it asking too much for the GOP to turn that around? Do you think it's even feasible for them?
Yeah, I absolutely do think it's feasible. I think that even Laura Trump being elected as one of our RNC chairs is huge. I think it's magnificent. I think that young women were seeking for leadership that embodies strength and grace, but is not the abrasive, aggressive Kamala Harris of the political scene. And I think Laura Trump is an amazing example of a female leader who will use her voice to champion for families, for females, and for our children, which I think is what women have been seeking for. So I think the better job that the GOP does getting behind figures like Laura Trump and Monica Crowley. I just think these some of these women that I've personally gotten to know in Palm Beach, they're amazing role models and leaders, and I think that the GOP needs to continue to get behind them and support them, and change their messaging to target the individual and the human and the person that they're fighting for, rather than just the idea or the policy or the issue, and reframe it around the person.
It's so interesting. I look at this Axios poll and I'm sorry, it's an Axios piece about Gallup polling, Gallup data, and it shows that the proportion of women 18 to 30 who identify, so Gen Z, right, who identify as liberal has shot up during the Trump presidency. So there's clear this is one of the areas where Republicans have been losing ground. And do you think that social media and the social pressure of it plays a particularly big role in that?
Um, I just think it goes back to some of the issues, and I think that media has framed Trump into this. I mean, even with all the cases that have come against him with sexual harassment and the way that he talks about women. And I think that the media has just attacked him right and left because they know that young women are susceptible to this and susceptible to falling into the ideology that Trump is some women hater. And he's not at all. I've met Trump. I spent time with him at Mar-a-Lago. And Melania is one of the most well-respected, well-treated women on that property. And I think that the media needs to be more honest and fair. I don't think they ever will be, but I do think that there's a lot of new platforms that are coming that are going to showcase just who Donald Trump really is and how much he does respect women and fights for women. He's not just doing this for himself, he's doing this for the women and the females in the workforce, the females who want to stay at home. And I'm using females because apparently this is now taboo subject of what is a female, what is a woman. But he knows the difference and he knows what to fight for, and he is fighting for women and he's fighting for families across America. So I
We'll
do.
get back into this in a second. Just from our sponsor here, Tunnel to Towers. Born from the tragedy of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has supported America's heroes and their families ever since. Heroes like Marine Corps Sergeant Adam Mayo. Sergeant Mayo served our nation for over 7 years before he was severely injured during training. He was left paralyzed from the chest down, severely limiting his ability to move around his home independently. Tunnel to Towers paid Sergeant Mayo's mortgage, removing a financial burden for him and his family. The foundation gave him a specially adapted smart home designed for his specific needs. Tunnel to Towers helps severely injured service members and first responders, as well as Gold Star families and the families of fallen first responders. It has already come to the aid of so many heroes and their families by providing mortgage-free homes. The foundation is also committed to eradicating veteran homelessness. Join Tunnel to Towers on its mission to do good. 95 cents of every dollar goes directly to their programs. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at t2t.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org. So after Trump's conviction, you think he is more or less likely to win the election?
Absolutely more likely. I just think this just only fuels America. I mean, not only are people seeing that this is an injustice against our former president, but it's an injustice against our country. And if we don't have, a fair justice system and legal process and due process, what do we have as a country? So I don't think that this has hurt him in any way except been a waste of time and money. I do think it has fueled the campaign. It will fuel Americans. I do think New York is in play. I think lots of states that we would have never looked at to be in play are now in play, because this is not just an attack on him. It genuinely is an attack on the American people and our right to a fair legal system. This is definitely lawfare. It is definitely a jab at the president to attempt to even put him in jail. I know that the judge has alluded that he won't be sentencing him with jail time, but you never know. I mean, there was a toss up behind the verdict and it came out guilty. So these people are ruthless. The left is ruthless. They genuinely hate him. They genuinely hate us. They do not respect us as citizens of this country. And they're not going to continue to get better. You don't get into this situation with the same morals that you used to get here. Like, we're not going to get out of it this way. So unless the GOP and Republicans and our truther side gets smarter and more strategic, we're only headed. This is only a snowball system in the legal world, and it will only get worse for Americans. And I think people see that, and they know that Donald Trump is the only thing standing in the way, and he is truly our last hope for our country. And if we do not win this election in November, we are toast. So, no, I think this has definitely fueled the campaign. It will continue to fuel voters that would have never considered voting for him, Democrats, independents alike. And it's only going to backfire on the Democrats.
I wanted to switch gears with you for a second toward the cultural side of things a little bit more. What do you think about how young women, are being messaged to these days by American society more broadly? I mean, I ask because I'm sure you saw the Harrison Butker, right? The kicker for the Kansas
Oh,
City
yeah.
Chiefs. He did his video. Isn't that? I know his last name is Butker. I think his first name's Harrison. But he did this video where he basically just said, for a lot of women, getting married and having children will be the most exciting or most rewarding, I should say, probably both, part of your life. And there was not just outrage as a general matter about this and about some of the traditional Catholic things that he said. There was outrage from a lot of young women about this. If you looked online, and the people that were doing stitches on TikTok or, tweeting at him or whatever, I guess it's not a tweet anymore. You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is this upsetting for young women to hear that being a mom and being a wife is something that they might cherish more than anything that they can do at, a Goldman Sachs cubicle?
Okay, this is an amazing question. So there's a couple factors at play, in my opinion. So one is the current dating scene for single women. I'm a single female in the dating scene right now, and it is hard. It is just a challenge to date now with social media and all of the things that are going on. Most people meet through apps. I refuse to download an app. There's just lots of challenges there to find somebody to build a family with. So I think that there's a challenge there. So a lot of women are scared to admit that that's what they want because they feel like they're failing at it. Secondly, I do think that the GOP or even Harrison, maybe some of these cultural commentators, should be a little bit more sensitive and strategic on when they message those things. I know Charlie Kirk said something along those lines a while back about how, that's really what women should be doing and aspiring to be. And I agree that that is a gift and that is a route for women to take. I do believe it is a gift from God to be a mother and to be a wife. However, I don't believe that from God we are limited to that route. I do believe that it is a part of our calling, a part of our gifting as women, but we are also called to lead, and our leadership can look different than how a man leads. We can engage in culture and society differently, but I do believe that women and men should lead alongside each other. I think we can engage in business and entrepreneurship. I mean, I come from a biblical perspective, so I look at Proverbs 31. A lot of the verses talk about how she was in real estate. She was an entrepreneur. She laid her hands on the wheels of government. She was involved in her city locally. She was involved with her family, and she did lots of things. So I don't believe it is a limitation that women can only choose one or the other. I do believe that it is a season of life. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're going to be a young mom. You're about to have a baby. You may stay at home for 2 years. That is a gift that you get to do that. That is a gift of time and a season. You may have another season when your children are older, in high school, middle school, where you decide you want to start a business. And so I don't think that the GOP has been very smart in messaging to these women, especially these cultural commentators. It can come off very limiting and capping, whereas I think we should be inspiring women to do those things and supporting them to be a mother, to be a stay-at-home mom, to be a wife, to homeschool, to do those traditional things. We need to be putting policy behind them to support them to do that. So I just think it's a matter of messaging and a matter of the media picking up on certain things. The media knows where the left is open and where the right is vulnerable. So I think that we just have to get smarter in appealing to women and communicating that it's not about a limitation, that it's about an opportunity.
Come back and dive into this, the cultural side of this a little bit more. But I'm a believer in owning gold, and our sponsor right now, Oxford Gold Group, is the best place for you to go if you want to buy precious metals like gold and silver. I've got gold and silver here on hand. I've got coins. I've got bars. I think that it's important to diversify, to have a hedge against inflation, and to be prepared. We don't know what the future holds, but we know that we can take actions to prepare for that future. And if you look historically, gold increases over time, especially when there's a lot of money printing going on. And we know that's what's going on. So, as I said, now is the time to take action. The Oxford Gold Group makes owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. All you have to do is give them a call, 833-995-GOLD. This is whom I get my gold and silver from, 833-995-GOLD, 833-995-GOLD. All right, so to have a little fun here, Ash, let's take a look at it, because it's funny. I pulled this up about Gen Z data from Gallup, right, which I think is the most famous pollster, certainly one of them. And this was also interesting to me. Most young men identify as moderate. That's the biggest category, so that's not surprising. This reminds me of when I was a single guy in New York City, and at cocktail parties or parties, whatever. I didn't go to a lot of cocktail parties like a 25-year-old, but I would dabble in libertarianism. Like, well, I'm a socially liberal but fiscally conservative, right? Because you want to have friends. So I think a lot of young guys say that they're moderates just because they don't want to get yelled at, but they're probably got like MAGA hat at home. But this was,
or they want to get a date.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm going to here. You see, let me see, where was this? It was basically saying that young women are okay. Here we go. 71% of Democrat women in college said they wouldn't go on a date with someone who voted for Trump. That's like, I mean, I guess that's what we should expect. But wow, wouldn't even go on a date. Wouldn't even give a guy a chance if he voted for Trump.
They have been so brainwashed. Our colleges are such a failure to young women right now. It is atrocious.
Well, what happens? I mean, if you're out and you're on a date and you're a young woman as you are. And a guy like describes himself as a male feminist, right? Or says what his preferred pronouns are. I mean, I can't imagine that being a sort of pseudo communist is appealing to young women, and yet women are saying they wouldn't go out with someone. Well, remember, it was Democrats, right? Not across the board, but 70% of Democrat women, 7 out of 10, wouldn't go out with somebody who voted for Donald Trump. I mean, by the way, I do not believe that this was true in like the Bush. I mean, I don't know, you were like very, very young, but in the Bush, Kerry and the Bush Gore era, whatever, people went out with people. It was something has happened. Like, why is it so polarized now, even in a social sense?
Okay, so besides right and left, I do think that media and the cultural commentators of our time, like the Andrew Tate and, the Just Pearly thing, all of those different cultural commentators have really shifted both sides even farther to each side. I really don't think that they've done a great job of pulling people into the middle or the gray area, trying to get people to relate. I just think that the push right now on TikTok and Instagram with all of these viral videos of people talking about dating and relationships and men and women, I just think they have been so polarizing, and it has not made women, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but what I believe is that the Andrew Tates of the world have not made women feel valuable. It has only solidified, because he's also a supporter of Donald Trump, it has also solidified the left's ideology and beliefs that Trump and the right hate women and they don't care and there's just this big patriarchy. I just think it's made it worse for them, and it's just only driven them farther to the left than it has brought anyone to the middle, and I just think it's done us a total disservice. So it's just disappointing that there's such a power of media.
I mean, for those a lot of people listening will have no idea what I'm talking about, but there was a TikTok that went viral into various songs about, it's a girl saying that she's She looks like she's about, your age. I don't know, 20 something.
Yeah.
And that she's looking for a guy in finance with a trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes. And this has turned into a viral. They've mixed it with techno music. It's all over the internet. And it's so funny to me because growing up in New York City and having had like family members working in finance, I never worked in finance, but knowing a ton of finance bros, I've actually never met a 6'5" finance bro with a trust fund. So in my entire life. So I don't know. I start to think that maybe there's some unrealistic expectations that I know she's like kidding, and I'm not trying to make it too serious, but I do think they have these the one thing that I was unaware of, and I say this as somebody who like barely qualifies for those who, because I am 6 feet tall, so I'm just like tall enough that when I was trying to find my wife, for example, she's not a heightist, but there are a lot of heightists out there. I did not realize how many women have really like hard and fast, got to be 5'10", got to be 6 feet, got to be 6'2", got to be 6'4". You'll see this. I think this is, to me, it must be an outgrowth of social media. I never heard this when I was a younger guy about how like, oh, he has to be a certain height. And now this song, 6'5"? 6'5" is like NBA player size. 6'5" is enormous.
Oh my gosh!
Well, you got nothing for me
right?
on this. Like, I don't know. Did we discover a heightist in our midst here? Like, I don't know. Are you?
No, I agree with you. I think it's insane. I mean, I think if you do the stats, I saw another video where they did the stats and they compartmentalize. Okay, this is how many men are in finance in New York City. This is how many men have a trust fund in New York City. This is how many men are 6'5". This is how many men have blue eyes. And they, whittled it down. It was like 3 men. And then it was like one of them was actually single and available. And it's ridiculous. Again, I think it's the same faults of media, social media. I mean, women and men alike can fantasize about the lifestyle that they want, and they can see all the best features of, items and people and lifestyles and things and then they put it together and they're like, this is what I want. It's just not reality.
It's also stunning if you look at the data. I think like there've been some deep dives into the Bumble data or something that have been, I've read like New York Magazine pieces or things like that.
Yeah.
Where they just do a basics on what percent of men consider like women on the dating app, whatever they're on, attractive. And clearly this is really overwhelmingly people 20 to 40, and really like 20 to 35 is where, and maybe even 20 to 30, right, is where you're getting most of the, the sort of dating app community or whatever you want to call it. And basically guys think that most of the women are like kind of attractive or whatever. And the women think like 2 out of 50 guys are good looking. It's amazing. And I'm like, I don't know where like if guys knew this, if they knew what the data was, they'd be like, I just give up. I don't know. It's very, it's tough out there. Like
so disheartening.
We think all the ladies are pretty, and we're just like, hi, ladies that are pretty, like go out, and we're very, like I said, I'm very, I'm lucky. I was able to meet my wife through Fox News. So Fox News was my my dating service, which was great. But it's one of the benefits I didn't know I'd have of doing a lot of Fox is like, oh wait, I'd meet a really pretty producer who'd become my wife, right? But I was a single guy in New York for a long time, and I can just say that I feel like all the guys I know are way easier to please than the women.
And the women
25 to 35 women. My female friends 25 to 35. I would hear it was always the same conversation. They'd be like, this is a true story. Once I had a friend.
Okay.
I used to play tennis with her. We were just friends. I mean, I don't know why I have to specify that, but this is like 20 years ago. But we're just friends. We were tennis, like we would play mixed doubles together. We were basically tennis partners. And we sat down once, and she was really clearly bummed. We're kind of like at the changeover. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like helpful friend guy, right? It's like in the movies, helpful friend guy wants to help. And I asked her, I'm like, so, what's going on? She says, it's guy stuff. Oh, this guy, I thought he liked me. He didn't, And, she was a very nice girl, super well-educated, athletic. And I'm just like, all right, like, I know a lot of, this is when I was in New York too. I was like, I know a lot of guys here, like, let's like set you up. Like, let's figure this out. And she's like, yeah, it's not hard. She's like, he just has to be 6'2" or above, Jewish, like works in finance or like makes like a very good living, and like probably went to an Ivy League school and can play a sport at like a D1 level. And I remember being like, I remember being like, I grew up in New York. I don't know anybody. I mean, a 6'2" Jewish guy from an Ivy League school who played a D1 sport and works in finance. I'm like, I know there are like they exist, but wow, Yeah, and by the way,
Oh
those weren't
my
like her
gosh.
those weren't her preferences. Those were the hard. That was like must, like hard and
Those were the
fast.
must-haves. Those were the key. Oh my goodness,
True
that is so
story. True
specific.
story. She is unmarried to this day. So I'm
Oh
just
my
thinking that was
gosh.
20 years ago.
You're like,
So you learn some stuff as you go. But I want to know about Palm Beach young Republicans and what you guys are up to. But first up, I have to say a couple words on behalf of my friend Porter Stansberry. Porter Stansberry has built one of the most successful financial research firms in America. How did he do this? He started it in his college dorm room back in like the late 90s. I've known Porter for a decade. He's an incredible forecaster. This guy understands the markets. He's no nonsense. And he puts his money where his mouth is because he makes these calls in writing in advance and is held to account. That's why he's built such a huge and loyal following. And Porter thinks that essentially there's a new form of money in America, and it's going to make some people very rich. Some of the richest people in America already use it. You can too. It's not gold or Bitcoin. Porter says what's interesting is that while every American is legally entitled to use this secret currency, very few know much about it. He's hoping to change that. It's critical to understand how America's new money works. He believes it's the most critical way to protect and grow wealth in the years to come as the dollar collapse continues. Check out Porter's latest detailed presentation online at secretcurrency2024.com. That's secretcurrency2024.com. Secretcurrency2024.com. All right, I wanted to give you a chance here, Ash. Thanks for hanging out with us on the show to tell me what like Palm Beach Republicans is up to and how you're going to help deliver Florida for Trump and save the world.
amazing. So we are focused this summer. So obviously elections in November. So we have a few months. We are registering voters in Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County has still about 250,000 independent voters, registered independents. So we are focusing on the independent voters and registering them Republican to vote, getting them to switch, inviting them into the party, educating them on the principles and the values and what we're fighting for, really what the issues are on the ballot in November. It's not been hard though. I will say a lot of people are very open, people that you would never expect. So we have a lot of momentum there with registering voters. And we also very we're very blessed to be in the same county as Donald Trump. So we are very close to the Trump campaign headquarters, and we get to work closely with them on some of their initiatives and some of their projects that they have this summer. So phone banking, door knocking, things like that, we get to support them with, and we let them, recruit people from our club, and we like to team up with them. So we're just very thankful that we're in this county. We get to work very closely with them, support what they're doing. Personally, in our club, we are going to start some media initiatives over the next few months. Like we've been talking about on the show, media is one of the most
Mm-hmm.
influential and powerful tools that we can use. So we are going to be focusing on women and women for Trump and interviewing lots of young women on why they're voting for Trump, why they've switched, and really just getting that message out there and attracting young female voters across the country. But we're going to use it in our little Palm Beach hub. So we're going to cultivate it here, build it here, and hopefully reach women across the country to vote.
In case anybody happens to be, in the area and interested in either attending some of the events, where does one go to find out more about the Palm Beach Young Republicans?
So they can go to our website. It's palmbeachyr.com. Very easy. They can also follow us on social media, which is Palm Beach YR. Very simple. Just connect with us, DM us, sign up to be a member if you live in Palm Beach County and you're registered. Get on our email list. We have a great email list. We send out lots of information around the county for, the local races. We have like 9 state house races. We have 4 congressional races. We have a state attorney's race, which hopefully everybody can see how important a district attorney, state attorney is after this Trump case. We are focusing on that. We haven't had a state attorney's race in our district in 12 years. And we do have we have 2 Republicans running actually. And so we are working to help get out the vote and work on that election.
All right. Ashton Mulholland, great to have
Yeah.
you on. Thanks so much for making the time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.